This is Nadine.
And this is Alex. We're from the Lakeshore Grounds Interpretive Center. Since we can't see you in person this summer, we're doing something a little bit different.
We're bringing you tidbit tours, small, tiny little videos that talk about different stops on our tours until you can come back and we can see you in person. Even though I consider myself a tree hugger, we at the Interpretive Center realized something. We don't actually know much about trees. I mean, obviously there's a trunk and there's bark and beautiful leaves, but what's the difference between them? Well, let's find out.
Trees are essential to Toronto's biodiversity, and they provide a lot of useful things to our city. Their root systems help prevent erosion and clean our water systems. They provide awesome habitats for birds and mammals, and they also provide oxygen, which we need to breathe. This week on Tidbit Tours, we're going to be talking about the elements that make up a tree. It's a lot more complicated than we can explain it in 15 seconds or less, but if you have any questions about the content, send us a DM and we'll answer it right here on Tidbit Tours. One of the most recognizable parts of the trees is the bark. The outer bark here is made up of dead skin cells, kind of like our fingernails, and it works together with the inner bark here to protect the insides of the tree.
The root system of the tree is kind of like the pantry in the kitchen. This is where they store the water and the nutrients before they send it up the trunk to the branches and the leaves. Often the root systems are as large as the crown of the tree itself, and it helps support it in all weather.
Leaves are the food factories of the tree. Using energy from sunlight, water gathered by the roots, and nutrients from the soil, the leaf uses a chemical called chlorophyll to create sugar and oxygen for the tree to survive.
All trees are produced with seeds. When a seed is ready to be planted, the tree will encase it into a protective shell like a pine cone, a nut, or maybe a fruit like an apple. Seeds are then dispersed with the help of small animals or wind.
We want to hear from you. DM us your questions or send us an email to info@lakeshoregrounds.ca to be featured on Tidbit Tours. Thanks for watching. This week on Tidbit Tours, we'll be looking at some basic differentiation between trees and plants. We'll also be sharing some of our favorite trees that grow in the Lakeshore Grounds. So behind me is probably a black walnut tree, and it is one of my favorite trees in the area. If you joined us for the film tour, you'll know this is the stop where Alex normally talks about Police Academy. But my favorite thing to look for is falling.
Your favorite tree may depend on what you find aesthetically pleasing. Mine is birch, but that's because I grew up across the street from a birch tree forest. They've been in my life ever since. I even have a tattoo of one on my arm. Birch is a very unique tree. I remember growing up actually drinking birch tree juice, just like we do maple syrup here in Canada. In Eastern Europe, it is popular to get juice out of this tree.
You might think you know a tree to see it, but do you know the difference between a tree and a shrubbery? A tree is defined as having one single trunk, where a shrubbery has multiple trunks per one plant.
There are actually two types of trees out there. It's the deciduous and the coniferous. The deciduous are the trees that drop their leaves during the winter, like the maple tree, and then the coniferous are the ones that don't, like the pine tree behind me.
If you have any questions about the history or ecology of Colonel Samuel Smith Park, send us a DM or an email to info@lakeshoregrounds.ca. Thanks for watching. This week on Tidbit Tours, we'll be answering some questions from you. We'll try to answer everything you send us and share a few resources to help keep you learning about Colonel Samuel Smith Park. At the Interpretive Center, we would love to see place-based learning that gets kids away from screens come into the curriculum. We'd also love to see a focus on empathy and respect when understanding each other's mental health, culture, and identity.
Speculation is that this is a lawn roller, which is used to smooth out the grass for an even field. Now, we don't know if this is still actively used today, but if it is, safe to say that it's probably used in a cricket pitch.
In North America, you can tell how old a tree is by counting its growth rings. This thinner layer is called spring wood, and that's grown when the tree first wakes up from hibernation, and this thicker layer is called summer wood, which is the main period of growing for the tree. Together, that makes up 1 year of growth.
One of quintessential Canadian icons is found across Toronto, sugar maple. These often grow in ravines and along the lakeshore, and they can live up to 400 years. You can recognize these trees from their maple keys and vibrant colors in the fall.
On the lakeshore grounds, one of our most easily identifiable seeds comes from the apple tree. This orchard was planted as part of the McNeil farm over 100 years ago and still produces fruit just like this one every fall. A tree can be broken down into 5 sections. The outer layer here is the bark that protects the inside of the tree. Then we have the inner bark called the phloem, and that's what transports the nutrients from the roots to the crown. Just beside the phloem, we have the cambium, and this is a thin layer of undifferentiated cells, similar to stem cells, that actually form the growth rings as the tree grows outward. Now, all of this action is happening on the outside of the tree, and this is where the xylem comes in. This is the sapwood, or the living cells that help transport water through the tree, and this is the part that's tapped for making maple syrup and sugar maples. The center of the tree is called the heartwood, and this is made of dead skin cells from the xylem that make up most of the tree trunk. It's filled with resins and minerals to prevent other organisms from infecting the center of the tree. This part also supports the weight of the crown. This is your last chance to send us any questions or comments about the history or ecology of Colonel Samuel Smith Park. Tune in next week to hear a special announcement about our surprise theme for August. Welcome to Tidbit Tours. This is our final week talking about the history and ecology of Colonel Samuel Smith Park, and we have some more questions from you. But stay tuned to the end to hear our surprise announcement for August theme for Tidbit Tours. The park is built on clean landfill, and the extension into Lake Ontario created many diverse habitats and ecosystems. The natural areas of the park were built with a focus on introducing native flora to help promote a diversity of species that we see today. The eastern white cedar is one of the most numerous species in the GTA, found commonly by swampy areas or by streams. Its wood is insect and rot resistant and provides valuable habitat and food in the winter months for animals like deer and squirrels. Two common species of bat in the GTA are the big brown bat and the little brown bat. Now, both species use echolocation to accommodate relatively poor eyesight to find, track, and catch insects like mosquitoes in Sam Smith Park. With their sophisticated echolocation system, bats can see and avoid objects as thin as a wire. A single bat can eat as many as several hundred insects a night, and a healthy colony can help keep insect populations under control. Bats don't pose any danger to humans or our pets. They're actually doing us a favor by eating the bugs that bug us. As with any wildlife, when we're entering the park, we're entering into their home, so give it the space it needs.
Thank you for following us on Tidbit Tours this past month.
For August, we're going to shake things up and bring you a different theme.
We're going to be talking about film and movie production here on campus.